have 5 minutes for your intervention. This is so that we can have time for Q&A. So if you have any slides, there are two options. One is that you can share them from your side. If you're not comfortable doing that, just drop me a mail and I'll share it from here. So there are two options to handle this. So up to you. And it's great to see you on the screen like this. Just keep yourself muted for now. And we're waiting for two more panelists to connect, and then we start in 7 minutes. Thanks to you all. And we have 54 attendees who've already joined. Thanks so much for joining us. We welcome you. We will start in 7 minutes. If by chance any of our panelists are in the attendee list, which happens sometimes, please raise your hand so that we can move you. So yes, so we're on hold and waiting to start now in 7 minutes. Thank you. Camera, please. Oh, there you are. Great, welcome. Could you say a few words? So just to check sound.
Okay, yes, I'm Norbert Njeka here. I'm taking a call from Pretoria, South Africa.
Brilliant. Thank you for joining us.
Everyone.
Glad to see you.
Good to see you. Please keep your camera on, but please mute yourself. And as I've explained to other panelists, you have 5 minutes for your intervention when it comes to your turn. You're welcome to share the slides from your end. If you're uncomfortable with that, please send it to us. We can share it from here if you would prefer that.
Now I will share a few slides, just two. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye.
So we're waiting for two more panelists. Dr. Sachdeva, if you're connected, could you raise your hand perhaps? Or come online? And we know that Luchika will be a little late. So dear colleagues, thank you for joining. We have nearly 120 participants. The time is exactly 1:30 Geneva time. I pass it on now to Dr. Teresa Kasaeva, Director of the WHO Global TB Program, who is moderating. Please.
Thank you very much. Dear distinguished colleagues, partners, and friends, greetings from Geneva. We are happy to be today with you. I am Dr. Teresa Kasaeva, Director of the WHO Global Tuberculosis Program. And I'm very pleased to welcome you to this important TB webinar. The aim of the webinar is to facilitate better understanding and share knowledge, respond to your questions on the new updated WHO guidance and on rapid diagnostics and drug-resistant TB treatment. Of course, we are all focused on enabling rapid uptake in countries by national programs and other stakeholders. This will translate to earlier access to quality diagnosis and treatment and better outcomes for the millions affected by TB and drug-resistant tuberculosis. This is even more critical in this sobering time as the world grapples with the COVID-19 pandemic. TB still remains the world's biggest infectious disease killer, still claims millions of lives and causes sufferings. We need to ensure access to essential services to continue providing access even in the very difficult circumstances, unprecedented circumstances for many of the countries, because our patients, people suffering and their families, they cannot wait. And a continuation of the services is becoming vital and essential. Of course, we are standing in solidarity, I mean all the TB community, with those at the front line of the fight with COVID-19, with TB, and we know very well that TB programs are contributing heavily in the response, but in the same time trying to provide services for our TB patients. So let me start immediately by introducing the excellent, distinguished lineup of speakers we have with us today. So my colleague, Dr. Matteo Zignol, leading the unit on prevention, diagnosis, treatment, care, and innovations of the WHO Global TB Program. He will start by presenting the guidelines and care recommendations. Then Dr. Matteo Zignol will be followed by Dr. Eze Tavoro de Santos Fiom, WHO Civil Society Task Force distinguished member, but he has also a lot of other roles. He is researcher, he is advocate, TB advocate, TB, HIV advocate, and we're proud that he's joining us also today. Dr. Luchika Ditiu, Executive Director of the Stop TB Partnership, she will arrive soon. We're all very busy, but we're trying to prioritize our TB-specific activities, and we consider this TB webinar as one of the important and excellent opportunity to share the latest knowledge with you. Dr. Mohamed Yassin, Senior TB Advisor from the Global Fund, our key partner, and we will hear from Dr. Mohammed about the role and contribution of the Global Fund in the current situation, And it's vital also, and acting not only on the traditional front with 3 diseases, but also now helping with the COVID response and to keep services sustainable. Dr. Mukadi Yadiul, Medical Officer, Infectious Disease Officer from Tuberculosis Division, Global Health Bureau of the USAID, representing the biggest bilateral partner, our partner working closely with the Global TB Program, and we will be happy to hear his position, opinion on the next steps which should be undertaken jointly, really to accelerate access to the better diagnosis and treatment options. Dr. Alena Shkrahina, Deputy Director of the Republican Scientific and Practical Center for Pulmonology and TB, and Deputy National TB Program Manager from Belarus, our good colleague and passionate TB leader, and working very hard, and she is dedicated spending her time and life to the patients with the TB. We'll be happy to hear from you, your position, how we can provide better treatment options and expect better treatment outcomes for the most patients with the most severe disease. Dr. Norbert Njeka, Director of Drug-Resistant TB and TB HIV Department of Health from South Africa, representing one of the highest burden country, but in the same time, the country is leading, as you know, in their efforts and their fight against TB, like promoting innovation and rapid uptake of the guidance. And really would be important to know what is happening with the uptake and what is probably you can show some results already. I see that my colleague and friend Luchika Ditio also joined us. Greetings, Luchika. We already introduced you. Happy to see you. So Dr. Sachdeva, Deputy Director, General TB Elimination Program from India. We hope that he will. Dr. Sachdeva is already here with us. We know that you're a very busy person, and it's really very hot time for all the national TB programs, and you know you have a lot of duties in India. I appreciate your time that you joined, and we'll be happy to hear from you the latest news about how in India you're providing continuation of TB services. Thank you very much once again for joining us for this webinar. Colleagues are showing that we have already 235 participants, and the number is growing. It's important and very good to see this huge interest. Also, we are very pleased that Dr. Ren Mingui, WHO Assistant, the Director General for UHC communicable and non-communicable diseases, will join us at the end, and will also share some important messages from our senior leadership. So let's start immediately. We have a very intense, rich agenda, and we hope that you will be active and ask your questions. You can use the Q&A function through the webinar to send your questions, depending on the availability and time. We'll try to respond to the questions as many as the time will let us. So let's start, and I would like to introduce for your kind attention some overview from me of the global situation and situation in the countries. So we'll try to be very short. As I told, TB remains the biggest infectious disease killer, according to our latest global report, with 1.5 million people died from TB, and 10 million people are falling ill with the TB annually. And you know that according to the latest data, 3 million people were not diagnosed or not reported. They are so-called missing people. About 500,000 people fell ill with drug-resistant TB, and only 1 in 3 of them accessed treatment, and of those accessed, only 56% were treated successfully. Again, worldwide known data, but very concerning, and we should not neglect and highlight it even in this very special moment and crisis for the world. So we've had high-level commitments. We succeeded to elevate the attention to TB program to the highest possible level. And we had first ever ministerial conference, and we are promoting and implementing our NTB strategy principles, SDG targets, and also we had, of course, our high-level meeting on TB in 2018 with very strong political declaration and commitments and clear targets. We were all very inspired, and we could see already before the crisis some significant and very inspiring progress. But now, as you could see, the whole life divided into two parts: before the crisis and now during the crisis and after. So it's quite a different time, and we are concerned altogether that we have a serious risk. Our progress is at risk, and I will try to explain you why. We've made some modeling here in Global TB program, and also we are working very closely with the Stop TB Partnership and other colleagues. They also, with the Imperial College, developed the model, which are quite aligned, and they're very concerning. They show us very real risks and negative trends. In cases in the countries where we can see disruption of the services and for the period more than 3 years, decrease in notification from 25% up to 50%, the risk, very serious risk of increasing mortality is becoming obvious. And unfortunately, already in this year, in 2020, we can face the situation when there will be 400 up to 400,000 more additional deaths from TB, from this preventable and curable disease because of this massive disruption. And we are trying to alert and encouraging you to use also this information to share with the high-level officials. We should avoid this situation and try to do our best. So probably a little bit more details will be also interesting and important to know. We are collecting information on a regular basis from the high burden countries. We are monitoring the situation and what we can see already. Next, please. We can see that there is, of course, disruption, but there are different trends and the situation in the country. Next, please. And some more details. Next, please. So we can see a reallocation of resources from TB services to the COVID-related services, and it happens in more than 100 countries, and in the same time 68 countries responded that it is not the case for them. So another trend which we can see, trends in the reassignment of the gene expert machine and the diagnostic services, and even some centralization. From our respondents, around 39 country representatives responded that it is the case, this repurposes, reallocation of the gene expert machine, while in the 60 countries it's still they're providing and managing to continue these services as they were before the crisis. So in case of the home-based services, delivery drugs at home, and the treatment under the control, it is happening also, and which is good and positive trend, and we requested to provide it in the 72 countries, and but in the same time 49 countries responded no to the question, are they providing home-based treatment or no. So also trends we can see in the self-isolation and at home, and how you can compare with the provision of the services at home. The situation is quite different. Self-isolation is requested in 90 countries. not requested in 85 countries. And of course, both tendencies are worrying. Of course, if they're isolated and provision of treatment is not provided, it's really very concerning. So, but I can't, of course, avoid and I can't lose this opportunity not to alert these very worrying trends. But you will ask what was our role, how we reacted on this situation, and I would like to share some information. Here you can see the timeline of the actions. We were actively involved in the responding to the questions from the TB programs, from the officials, how services should be provided. And you could see that on the 24th of March, we released information note with the responses to these questions, and we worked together.
Teresa, you can speak.
So, dear colleagues, can you hear me?
Yes,
Hear
now
and
we can
see?
hear.
Yes, now sound is back. So hope you can also see me. So you see, our life is not easy, despite of the advantages in the technologies. We're still facing some problems. So hope you could see me. No video. Still waiting for the video. A few moments. Sorry, colleagues, trying to maintain urgently.
Yeah, that's what we'll do.
You can see the slides, you can go ahead.
Yeah.
So if you can see the slides, I will go ahead. I will stop on the information and guidance provided by WHO since this crisis happened. Specific guidance and responses to the TB and COVID-related questions. I will not go into the details, but we are updating on regular basis our information note. There were specific scientific brief on the BCG vaccination, which was also important, and it was timely released. You could find also a very important integrated, consolidated community-based guidance on the provision community-based services and essential health services. And you will find that TB is a part of these documents, and they should be used and promoted heavily with all country officials in high burden countries. And also you could find the compendium of TB COVID studies and research related activities, which is also quite helpful. Much more research questions will come also coming and will come later, and we should be ready to respond and to prepare the clear guidance. So here you can see also the slide with all these documents which could be used by you. So, and my final slide will be with our recently released guidelines, updated guidelines on the treatment of drug-resistant TB and on the diagnostics. And my colleague Matteo Zignol will present more detailed information about them. I'm sure that you will be interested in some details. So, so we'll be.
Just 1 second.
Yeah, I think
Sorry for the technical difficulties. Just give us 1 minute. Accept and excuse me. Do I say accept?
yes.
Yeah, good.
Mute every laptop, by the way.
Oh, can you mute your system?
It's muted.
Can you hear me now?
With the back sound.
Yeah, of course. It goes into that.
Try Matteo. Can you mute yourself and then try?
Hi, everyone.
Just
Okay.
yeah. If
You
you
should
could.
mute yourself.
Okay. Now try Matteo.
Hi, everyone again. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, then I'll start with the presentation. In the next 10 minutes, I hope the technology will support us. I'll try to introduce the new guidance on rapid diagnostics and treatment of drug-resistant TB. This is the work of a very large team, and I'd like to have the first slide. Yeah, I hope I have this first slide. It's taking a bit of time. I don't know what's happening.
Okay. Okay, they can see it. Go for it.
You can see it on Zoom, yes.
Okay. Before starting with the content of the presentation, I would like to say that at WHO, next slide, please, we are working to consolidate slides. Next, please. To consolidate slides, guidance on tuberculosis. Here you see 3 modules of guidance. The first one was issued on World TB Day. It's module 1 on TB prevention. And the other 2 modules, 3 and 4, have been issued last month in June. And those are the topic of this webinar. There is another module in the middle, module 2, which is on screening, and it is under development. We just had an initial discussion with the GDG last week. So the focus of this presentation will be on these 2 modules on diagnostics and treatment of drug-resistant TB. And the guidance comes with the operational implementation guide. Next, please. I start with diagnostics. For the first time, we consolidated the whole WHO guidance on TB diagnostics. The module is composed of 5 sections, and from section 2 to 5, you will have all information and guidance that have been already published by WHO from 2015 to 2020 using the grade approach. And the first section is the new section with the new evidence and new recommendation. Next, please. The section is on the use of molecular assays for the detection of TB, and it has 4 sort of sets of recommendations. The first one is on the use of expert, MTB, and ultra assays as initial tests to diagnose pulmonary TB and to detect rifampicin resistance. This is in adults with signs and symptoms of TB, both new cases and retreated cases. I just want to emphasize here that we are talking about technologies, tests that are supposed to replace near microscopy. Near microscopy has a suboptimal sensitivity and should therefore not be used to detect TB. We should use molecular tests. The second set, next slide, please. The second set of recommendations is on the use of these technologies, MTB-RIF and Ultra, in children to detect pulmonary TB and also rifampicin resistance. And here, the new recommendations are about the site in which the test can be done, and it's not just sputum samples, but also gastric aspirate, nasopharyngeal aspirate, and stool. So this recommendation broadens the scope and basically the target samples for these molecular tests. Next, please. The third area of recommendation is about a completely new technology. This is TrueNAT from Mobio. It's a molecular test, a molecular assays. And again, these assays can be used as a replacement of smear microscopy instead of smear microscopy to detect TB and rifampicin resistant TB in adults and children with signs and symptoms of pulmonary tuberculosis. Next, the last area that is sort of described in this new guidance is about the use of expert MTB, RIF, and ultra in patients with extrapulmonary tuberculosis to detect TB and to detect rifampicin resistance. Here you will see that the recommendations are many with different levels of strengths and different certainty of the evidence. So I invite you to go through them and read them carefully. I hope you can still hear me now. I am trying to proceed. The second part of my presentation is about the guidance on the treatment of drug-resistant TB. Next, please. Yes. The guidance has already been consolidated as part of the update of last year. We have 8 different sections, and 3 of them are new. We provide the new evidence and new recommendations.
Yes, mute.
These are sections 2, 3, and 4. Next, please. Let's start with the first one, section 2. This is about the use of a shorter all-oral regimen containing bedaquiline for the treatment of MDR-TB and rifampicin-resistant TB. This is a completely new recommendation. This is a 9 to 12 months regimen. And I like to emphasize this is for patients that have not used second-line medicines before for more than 1 month, and in whom the resistance to fluoroquinolones has been excluded. So it is important to test patients for quinolone resistance before clearly using this short regimen or oral containing bedaquiline. Next, please. The section 3, the next part, is about new evidence for longer regimens to treat MDR-TB. And here we have some important news. The first part is about the use of bedaquiline beyond 6 months. And although there is no sufficient data to make a statement on efficacy, we can now make a statement on safety, and we can definitely support and recommend the use of bedaquiline beyond 6 months as a safe sort of approach. Then the next information is about the concomitant use of bedaquiline and delamide in longer regimens. And here again, the data shows that there is no additional safety concern on the use of these two drugs together. And then another point on the use of bedaquiline in pregnancy. The new data show that the only adverse event that could be detected is low birth weight. And clearly we cannot ascribe that with confidence to the use of bedaquiline. But that is the only effect, and the data also suggests that there is no significant differences in infant growth during the first year of life. So it is definitely safe to use bedaquiline in pregnancy. And now move to the last part, which is section 4, which is the introduction of a completely new regimen. It's called BPAL. It's composed of 3 drugs for 6 months. It includes bedaquiline, pertomanid, and linezolid. This is for use under operational research conditions in MDR patients that have shown resistance to fluoroquinolones. This is a very innovative regimen and quite promising that we recommend to be used, as I said, under operational research conditions. This was my last slide. It was a rapid overview. I want to acknowledge the people involved very rapidly. Alexei Korobitsyn, who led the work on the diagnostic guidelines, and Fuar Mirzayev, who led the work on the DRTB treatment guidelines. And the whole team here at WHO, the steering committees, evidence reviewers, DDG members, external groups, external partners, and our donor agency. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much, Matteo. And once again, sorry, I apologize for the disruption, but you see a disruption is everywhere now. We've managed to solve this problem, and we're trying to move forward. So that our audience is growing is great to see. Despite of all these problems with the connection, we have more than 400 participants now, and the number of questions and interest is also growing, more than 20 questions. In the interest of time, me, myself, and our colleagues will try to respond online, but also some few of the questions, if the time will allow us, will be raised, the most interesting and important questions. Now, let's move to the our first panel with our eminent speakers, and to know from their side what is happening and how our policies and guidelines could be translated as fast as possible and used in practice. So Dr. Ezio Tavora, TB advocate and member of the WHO Civil Society Task Force. I'm just presenting you in this role. Dr. Ezio, please, floor is yours.
Thank you, dear Teresa. I will speak without a presentation, although Monica, if you allow me later, I will just show some other slides. Teresa, I would like to start with something which is very important for us at the Civil Society Task Force for WHO, which is the multi-sector accountability framework. I think that this emergency of COVID shows us how when urgency is given and proper attention is given, responses come. And there are an unprecedented multi-sectoral collaboration for the COVID emergency, and we have to apply that for TB. I think this is a lesson learned that we have to know, and the cooperation and the response also from the civil society. I think regarding the multiple rapid diagnostics to ensure access to care, I think I was involved in the rollout studies to implement a network of rapid diagnostic tests in Brazil between 2011 and 13, and have been following up the BRICS TB Research Network cooperation for operational studies in Brazil and South Africa to test TrueNet in different countries. TrueNet is a rapid chip-based real PCR testing technology that can be positioned at a point of care setting and use equipment with batteries, which is an advance considering to GeneXpert tools. But we have to indicate that there are any diagnostics that we implement have different conditions. So we see that what Matteo rapidly showed that, but we know that accuracy for rifampicin resistance varies considering the sites. That can happen actually with any diagnostic. They will vary considering the context, but the good thing is that TrueNet, MTB and MTB Plus have an accuracy similar to, range to Ultra, Expert Ultra, and then can be used in microscopy centers. Yet we have to move towards a real point of care and portable machines for diagnostics. I think we have been doing a tremendous improvement in terms of diagnostics. Now we have the Expert MTB RIF, and we have Ultra now, and we have TrueNet as initial tests to diagnose pulmonary TB and detect rifampicin resistance. But despite this effort, molecular diagnostics are not a reality in most high-burden countries. In Brazil, for example, we have 30% of the tests being diagnosed by rapid diagnostic tests. And in most countries where the machines are available, sometimes they are not functioning. And so we need a monitoring, and the civil society can play a huge role there. Expert MTB-RIF and Ultra, they bring an innovation for children TB detection, especially with different specimens. And we have also the advance of the Ultra assay also for detect resistance for extrapulmonary TB. So we are advancing in that. But let's be clear, improving the sensitivity or the accuracy and in the cartridge will not solve structural problems. And what I'm talking is about energy supplies, the conditions of the facilities, the supply management, the procurement system, the technical support and replacement, for example, of the cartridges, interpretation of the results, because the results don't come, have to be interpreted and properly and informed in the system to provide the result and to start the correct treatment to people. So we have to consider all this. We have the role of the civil society is to monitor, to monitor the implementation of these rapid diagnostics and information networks on the country level. We have done an assessment. I don't know if I can quickly show. Can I, Monica, show? I don't see sharing the screen here. I don't see an option. Anyway, I won't take much time for this is precious time that we have here. But the Brazilian TB social movement is conducting an very important assessment with TB managers and HIV managers to see the functioning of the system during the COVID emergency. And we are now proceeding to the second wave with the TB managers, and we are currently doing with the people on treatment for TB and HIV to assess how the services are going, comparing to the guidelines that are provided by the Ministry of Health. So we have an impressive information that we got actually before the Ministry of Health, that about 40% of diagnostics already in late May, early June had already reduced in 40%. So we will have a huge impact on that. And I encourage the communities to do similar work. Well, in terms of global policies still on diagnostics, we need to continuously mapping and supporting promising diagnostic manufacturers in different parts of the globe, and investing in R&D and operational studies. We need to assess the performance of the diagnostics in routine conditions. It's not only the accuracy that we have to focus. We have to focus in routine conditions. Expert brings an advantage. TrueNet is a breakthrough, but we need more diagnostics from different manufacturers. We cannot be held hostage from manufacturers, and we have monopoly of diagnostics, as we have been suffering in the last years. Accuracy in research center and has been the focus, but again, I will emphasize the routine conditions and also the algorithm that the countries have to do. I mean, WHO provides a template, but we need the countries to define what is the viable algorithm for them to improve. So and again, I will touch on the point that we need not only the improved laboratory system, but also the improvement of the information system. Because at the end of the day, what we want is that the patients are given the right treatment for their disease, be that a sensitive TB or MDR. Regarding the importance of injectable-free regimens, I had TB myself when I was in HIV treatment failure, and TB treatment, although I was not resistant, I had to go through some MDR treatment, and I cannot understand how anyone can stand a treatment with injectables. I say that this. For almost 2 decades, and I remember in 2008 at Harvard, we had a seminar, and I said that we should lock the doors, and every researcher and every manager should get at least 2 shots of streptomycin on their butts to understand how painful it is and how serious treatment and toxic treatment, MDR treatment is. So we are very happy to advance in injectable free regimens. I have been advocating that for a long time. So we have new drugs, we have a huge progress, but we have to accelerate this response, and the communities have a huge role in that. We have bedaquiline, which is not yet incorporated in systems like we are finally here in Brazil going to soon have a final word, and also for the laminate, the public consultation just finalized 2 days ago, bedaquiline next week, and we have pretomanid, we have linezolid, and we have to work on this compounds. So we have the STREAM 2 trial bringing fundamental evidence for short treatment regimens. And we have several TB Alliance studies. And I would obviously talk about the Simplicity B, because I run the community engagement both on STREAM 2 and Simplicity B. And the key of the community engagement and research is the creation of the community advisory boards, which give a tremendous response and monitoring from the society and help implementing the new technologies. So, well, we need to have that accurate response, but we need to know the reality on the ground, and the communities know better. I mean, my colleagues at CSTF are doing a tremendous work, and we very much thank WHO for this openness and this kind cooperation that we are having with the communities, and the great support. Thank you, Teresa, Dr. Delos, and all my colleagues, Matteo, everybody. Thanks for your time.
So thank you very much, Edso, for your very important highlights, for a comprehensive view on the problems, and some clear understanding and proposals how we should move further. So we are facing, as it was highlighted numerous times, a lot of challenges now, but how to convert these challenges maybe into the opportunities. You see that we have problems, we have social distancing, but surprisingly, it pushes us for the more closer collaboration. And I'm really very happy that probably we have the best time in the history of the relationships with the partners. We are working much closer on daily basis, very effective, constructive, and trying to move forward very fast. And with this, I would like to give floor to Dr. Lucica Ditiu, and I'm sure that it will be very passionate and constructive speech. Please, floor is yours.
So thank you very much, Teresa. It's great to be all of us here, 412 people online, and I will just go directly to my points because I know we have time to catch up. I will speak without slides, and I will put some links towards what I said that people can access afterwards to get the information. So I add my words to what everyone here said. This is a great momentum. I want to thank WHO for pushing rapidly very clear guidance in terms of using rapid molecular diagnosis, and in terms of drug regimens, injectables, all orals that we all have to do. As a Stop TB partnership, we are supporting this, looking at our comparative advantages, because we are not there to develop guidelines. We are not there to collect the data. We are here to support and make sure that we are all ending TB by 2030. In 2018 September, we have the UN high-level meeting targets that were approved. I want to remember all of us that by the end of 2022, we have to diagnose and treat, referring specifically to the DRTB, specifically 1.5 million people with drug-resistant TB cumulative, starting with 2018. So 2018, 19, 20, up to the end of 2022. I am very concerned because you know the figures of 2018 and we will know the figures of 2019 very soon. I know that, as we said already, because of the COVID, 2020 will not be amazing, but we have to push very hard in this remaining half of the year to really go very quickly in scaling up, because otherwise we are at huge risk of not reaching this 1.5 million people with drug-resistant TB. In addition to that, we also have to diagnose and treat 115,000 children with drug-resistant TB cumulative. And diagnosing and treating TB in children, leave aside drug-resistant TB, is extremely challenging, and this will request a lot of attention for us. From Stop TB, we are doing a lot of work on advocacy. So we unpacked together with all the partners and obviously with WHO, first and foremost, the targets at country level to ensure that there are things to be followed up, because everyone contributes its share to achieving these targets. We are working towards making sure that there will be a clear measure of how much is everyone contributing and how much is left behind. And we are embarking into big advocacy in ensuring, indeed, as Matteo said, that we use for diagnosis the rapid molecular tests. And I heard what Ezio said, and I know that in many places, microscopy is very much still used. We need to push for rapid molecular tests. If any of us is getting sick or suspect of TB today, none of us will accept to have just a smear microscopy. Just think about that inside yourself. This is the talking point that we should use with everyone that is telling us you cannot afford to have gene expert everywhere, it's too expensive. If the HIV community had a tool, it was always taken, run with it, implement it, and scale it up. And maybe money were not enough, or maybe they had much more, but there was a big demand to do this. We were always pushed back, saying your budget is not enough, and we quietly and respectfully were listening. We need to say to everyone that says that, if you think you have TB and you go to your clinician, are you happy if you get a smear microscopy and start in blind the treatment or not? And then you can continue the discussion. Then we will obviously move very quickly. We will also add our advocacy voice towards the MDR-TB short-term all oral regimen, injectable free, and support all this rollout at global level, obviously, and at country level. And also with our work with our country colleagues, with our colleagues from TB Reach that are funding innovative approaches to find and diagnose people with TB and drug-resistant TB, as well as through our work with people from on communities, rights and gender, to ensure not only that we have these tools, but that we are able to really ensure access for everyone, irrespective where the color, the place where he is born, religion, and other things. Now, the last and one of the most important things of today are related to the very recent announcement around the bedaquiline price. You know, for a long time, we were, you know, our budgets were, you know, squeezed. It's good now to hear that in addition to Gene Expert, we have another tool, MolBio. So I encourage everyone to look at it and to take it and run with it, because now is according to the WHO recommendation. In terms of the treatment for drug-resistant TB, we announced this week, after a lot of negotiations and discussions, a drop in the price for drug-resistant, for bedaquiline, from the baseline price is not anymore $400, but $340 for 6 months. Now, however, it's even better than that, because if we are able collectively this year to be able to procure 125,000 regimens, the price will drop in addition 10%, and it will go to $306, because there is an arrangement that for each 9 treatments procured, there is 1 getting for free. So the figure that we have to all remember is that the price is 340, but it will drop even further to 306 this year if we are able, all of us, to go to 125,000 regimens. This is valid for drugs procured through GDF. We don't get any benefit out of that because we are not for profit. All operations and staff are already paid. So this is not to make the money of GDF. We worked with GDF, supported and with the engagement of our colleagues from USAID and Global Fund to arrive at this figure. It's a feasible figure to arrive at 125,000. And I think it's essential to do it not only for the price drop, but also because it's a figure that will lead us to have some hope to achieve the targets of the UNHLM. Things are getting better because the next threshold is 200,000. If we reach next year 200,000 or even more than 1,000, there will be an additional drop, 20% if we reach 200,000 treatment, and it will be 30% if we have more than 200,000 people. So that will lead to ultimately, if we get to have enrolled, diagnosed and treated with bedaquiline more than 200,000 MDR people with MDR, we will have 238 the bedaquiline that it's the cost of the bedaquiline. Now that is really that price, as I said, is applicable to all countries that can procure through GDF. There are 139 countries that are part of this arrangement. Obviously, all the countries, low, middle income and so on. For you to note two figures and for you to remember is that with the new price currently, the all oral shorter regimen is around $550. And an all oral longer regimen is around $1,000. So we are in a very different space than we used to be, where you remember we were speaking of hundreds of thousands of dollars and so on. All of this information is on our webpage. I will put the link to that. We have a Q&A and we have a table to explain all the things and how it works. The bottom line is that it's our time right now. It's true that COVID derailed us, and it's true that COVID will probably affect our targets and our capacity to reach the targets of probably 2020. But we should not shy away from demanding the tools and the drugs that are needed to properly treat every single person. We need to be bold in making our budgets, and then we need to ensure that, okay, there is not enough, then we have a gap, and then we have to be upfront in saying that there is a big gap here, and we need to ask the support and, and see how we can cover that. It will not be easy, but I think it is possible. We will continue working from Stop TB to really support all these market shaping strategies, decreases in the prices. We are in a different place versus where we were before. I want to thank very much everyone that is here, and you, Teresa, and the team for the great collaboration we have, and for the great inclusiveness and speed in pushing some of this great guidance forward. Thank you very much.
Luchika, for your very important highlights, and this is exactly the news we are expecting. We need better access to the tools, to our drugs, effective drugs, and now we can hear that the result, the joint efforts are bringing the results. The price for the drugs are dropping, and it's not only for the treatment of drug-resistant TB, also for the TB preventive treatment. These options are becoming also available, and probably it will be the topic for our other discussion, but we should not neglect TB preventive treatment. We can see like HIV community is moving faster with providing TPT for the people living with HIV. Other household contacts should not be also neglected, but we will listen to your request and we'll organize another webinar. Now I would like to give floor to Dr. Mukadi Yadiul and to listen to the perspective from the biggest donor and partner. Please, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Teresa, and thank you very much to WHO for organizing this very important webinar. I think that we are seeing important movement happening on the TB front with the different guidelines that were put forward as mentioned by Matteo. But I'm going to be very short because we're running out of time, and just saying what we as USAID how we are looking at these guidelines and how we are thinking about pushing forward with its implementation at the country level. So on the diagnosis side, I have to say that our priority has always been to ensure that patients will have access to quality TB rapid diagnostic, as well as drug-resistant testing through a diagnostic network that have the capacity and resources for implementation of new existing tools. So we have new tools, we have existing tools, and then our goal is really to make sure that patients will have access to those tools and then will be diagnosed quickly. As Matteo mentioned it in his presentation, one of the requirements for using the short all-oral treatment regimen is to have access to a drug susceptibility test for fluoroquinolone. You need to make that test available to the country so that they can move to the short treatment regimen. Otherwise, they're going to be stuck with the long treatment regimen. So that is really putting a lot of emphasis on our side to make sure that we're going to be supporting countries to move forward in that direction. So what we're doing right now at the country level, I think that you've learned, you've seen it. We've worked with partners, and we're doing in different countries what we call in the TB Diagnostic Network assessment. We systematically looking at the situation with regard to TB diagnosis, looking at the different element of the diagnosis, this essential component, making sure that we have enough information that is data-driven information that is going to be helping us to come up with a way to prioritize intervention that should be implemented in order for us to improve the diagnostic system at the country level. But now that we have the guidelines out, what are we going to be doing with that? On both the diagnosis and the treatment guidelines, what we usually do at USAID is we collect those guidelines coming out from WHO, and we translate them in what we call implementation guidance for our mission. So we have our mission, our people that are work closely with the national TB program. So they need to be well versed into these guidelines. So we have an implementation guidance that is being developed. It's really very short, straightforward, practical tools that is going to be helping our mission to understand the guidance. And then we go through a webinar session. We've already had one done for as soon as the treatment guidelines came out. We already had one webinar session done with our mission, and then the advisor that we have embedded within the national TB program. The reason we're doing that is for them to start the dialogues at the country level with national TB program and see how they can provide assist the national TB program to translate those guidelines into national policies. Once those guidelines are translated national policies, we have different avenues that we have at the country to make sure that we can move forward with its implementation. As we know, we have the TB accelerator, and one of the elements of the TB accelerator, we're working closely. We have local partners in the countries, but one of the elements of the TB accelerator is also working closely with the national TB program, having access to the TB program, allowing the national TB program to have access to funding directly from USAID. So they can use that option as well if needed to make sure that they can move forward with updating their guidelines to be in line with WHO. Once we have that done, I think that the next step is we make sure that all the implementing partners will have in their work plan the element that we've described here in terms of the guidance from WHO that are requiring the use of oral treatment regimen or introducing the true not diagnosis tools or building on existing gene expert and then moving forward with that. We also really emphasizing on the very important aspect of the data collection and the using enough information of the data and then following up the patients correctly. We do think that with everything that we've done in the past with the bedaquiline donation program that really and the technical assistance that was associated with it, we've prepared the countries to be quite familiar with using bedaquiline in the country. We have prepared the country to be familiar with introducing new guidelines and new treatments, so that we are quite comfortable that the introduction of the bedaquiline containing regimen that is being proposed right now will move in the country quite smoothly. But there are some areas that I think that they are really very important that I need to put on the table here that maybe not emphasized. I think that they're very important that we maintain our eyes on monitoring, detecting, managing, and reporting adverse events. This is something that is very important, and as well as ensuring that the quality of our program is very good. It's very good to move forward with the implementation of the guidelines, very good to implement with the implementation of new treatment regimen, but if it's done poorly, we might going to be running into a major problem in the future. So our very, very important issue is really the quality of the services that we need to maintain, and making sure that the patients that are getting the drugs will be completing the treatment, and then we have a way to document that they've completed the treatment and so on. On the diagnostic side, I think that one thing that is very important, we also have to start thinking about having access to drug susceptibility tests for these new drugs as they're being rolling out, because the resistance will be coming out, and we need to make sure that we'll be able to detect it at the right time and be able to manage it and change the patient treatment as soon as we can, as soon as we can do. And finally, I think that the research is still very important. We are still investing in the research. We have the SWIM study that is finishing right now. We did support the next study for the BPAL regimen. There are other 2 studies that are moving forward, what we call the BID study, that are looking at the use of both bedaquiline, the laminate, for the treatment of multidrug-resistant TB, that is in South Africa, a treatment of XDR TB in India. I think that it's very important that we continue to invest in more research and more research to find out what are the other treatment regimens that are out there, because the one that we have right now might not be lasting for a long period of time. So with that, I think that I'm going to be stopping here, and I'll be happy to respond to any questions if you have anyone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, and we're really proud of our collaboration and your ongoing support as to the global TB program, and also to the countries, to the high burden countries. And of course, this is the cycle: development of the guidelines, their implementation, and research activity, especially with the clinical trials. And we should keep this cycle on track, and of course we know that much more should be done, and without this fast update and implementation in the countries, or without investments in research, there will not be chance for further update and strengthening of our guidelines, and proposing new treatment options and new better diagnostics tools. So we hope that we will continue doing this, and we have a very important tools in our pipeline, and hope for the continuation of our collaboration. So with this, I would like to move to Dr. Mohamed Yassin, Senior TB Advisor from the Global Fund, our also key partner and stakeholder, and we will listen carefully to your information and your news from your side. Thank you. Full floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Teresa and WHO, for organizing this important webinar and for inviting us. As you all know, Global Fund has a very successful replenishment, the 6th replenishment, with the largest ever amount raised, about over 14 billion for the next 3 years for the 3 diseases, also to improve health system and community system. And that means countries receive more resource for addressing TB response in their country, and also to reach the UN high-level targets. And Global Fund welcomes the new recommendations, both on the molecular diagnostic with additional diagnostic tests added to the existing ones. Is really very good news. We'll have alternatives and opportunities as well. While Global Fund has been supporting countries during the last 10 years to scale up gene experts and other diagnostic tests, updating these existing ones and more advanced tools, also adding new ones is really very good news for us. And the treatment, yes, we all are struggling with poor treatment outcome with MDR TB, with the expensive regimen, very toxic and so on. It's probably one of the game changer for TB to move to shorter oral regimen as quickly as possible. And we believe this, the 2 recommendations are timely from Global Fund side, because we think that we have opportunities to support countries to scale up uptake and use of these tools. The first opportunity is the Global Fund strategy, which calls innovations and evidence data-based programming. And the second opportunity that countries are now preparing funding requests for the next 3 years. Actually, more than half of the countries have already submitted their standard funding request, despite the constraints with COVID, and the first window already reviewed, and the second window being reviewed. And recognizing the constraint due to COVID, Global Fund actually created more windows to be flexible for countries to submit their funding requests. That's window 2A, B, C, and we have window 3A, B, and so on. That to provide more information, more time for countries to develop their funding requests. But these funding requests should be also informed by the latest available guidance and recommendation, and we understand countries already incorporating these new diagnostics and the shorter regimen, including actually using some of modified shorter regimen, including BPAL under operational research, and which could be supported through Global Fund as well. We are talking about not only procurement of the tools, and the drugs, but it's a full package of ensuring that the lab system works very well and the treatments reach to the people who need them, and those people receive proper monitoring and including social support as well. And as you all may know from the Global Fund announcement that we heard that due to COVID, including TB, HIV, malaria, resources are moving to COVID, and specifically for TB, the gene expert machines will be probably used for COVID testing in several countries. That's where the Global Fund already announced that $1 billion additional $1 billion for countries to primarily to focus on mitigating the impact of COVID on the 3 diseases and retaining and maintaining the key interventions, including TB diagnosis, treatment, prevention as well. Wherever there is a need to co-use or use the gene expert and other tools for both TB and COVID, then there should be a mitigation measures in place. And that's where we see countries are now submitting a request for COVID response as well at the same time. While half of the 1 billion is coming from the grant flexibility, where the savings and reprogramming of existing grants, the other $500 million is submitted to Global Fund for review and decision, and with very swift process, and the whole process is about 10 days, and over 65 countries have already submitted their funding requests for this, addressing the COVID impacts, including some core COVID-related response and health and community system strengthening component. And we have just looked at the number of countries requesting for additional gene expert machines. Not only for the machines, actually, they are considering several options to address, to mitigate the risk of using gene experts for COVID testing, including, hiring more staff and working overnight 24 hours, and obviously procuring additional machines. And so far of the reviewed 25 countries requests, there's a request for additional 420 gene expert machine, which is equivalent to about 3,000 modules, because some countries are requesting for 1632 modules and more, and that would help to improve overall TB diagnosis as well, even if we are in very difficult situation to maintain TB testing. And there are additional opportunities for countries which are really scaling up these new innovations. Some countries have received already additional funding last year, more than 54 million, to transition from the existing regimen to shorter regimen, including procurement of additional drugs. And all the good news already mentioned earlier the reduction in the price of bedaquiline, it is all good news, and Global Fund is part of this discussion and really acknowledge and welcomes this decision. That means actually countries would be able to treat more patients with drug-resistant TB, even with available resource. While we all need to advocate for more resource, both from domestic funding and international funding, and from Global Fund as well, we have opportunities to diagnose and to treat more people with drug-resistant TB. And that requires a partnership. Global Fund is a partnership organization, and we will continue working closely with WHO Stop TB and all the partners, also working closely with the national program to make sure that the requests are funded, and also after funding, the programs implement their activities and reach their targets, and obviously the target of ending TB in 2030. That's what we all are looking for, and we are very happy to continue collaborating on the technical assistance, and we are closely working with WHO, Stop TB, and USAID on providing targeted support for DRTB through the Green Light Committee as well, and through grant and other source. That collaboration should continue, and we need to contribute supporting countries to implement these new innovations and continue innovating more and collecting the data and informing the policy making. And this is a journey, and Global Fund will continue to be as part of this journey and as a partner. And we have all the information on our website, detailed one, including on COVID response related opportunities, and in the overall grant related opportunities as well. And we would continue working with each and everyone here and with others who are not connected in this webinar. I just want to thank the organizers on behalf of Global Fund, and we look forward to continue working with you. Over.
Thank you very much, Mohammed, for your work and for the leadership of the Global Fund, and Peter Sands. He was also very vocal when he's speaking about TB and the disruption of the services. And of course, much more should be done and more investments. Of course, the replenishment was successful, but we are still we still need more investments in TB. And while we are requesting countries to increase their domestic resources, but we all understand that, especially in this situation when the economics were disrupted, it will be also difficult for them. That's why we need to attract more attention of the funders, donors, and to request invest more in TB. Thank you. And now we are moving to our country representatives of the high TB, high MDR TB burden countries. And we would like to listen from you, your position on the new guidelines and what could be done for their faster adaptation and implementation in the countries. Dr. Alena Shkrahina, Deputy Director of the Republican Scientists and Practical Center from Belarus. Please, floor is yours.
I'm happy to participate in such important event. Thanks for invitation. Recently, Belarus has achieved a significant decrease in TB incidence, prevalence, and mortality. However, Belarus national TB response is faced with the need to address an epidemic of multi and extensively drug-resistant TB. About 1 set of new and 2 sets of previously treated patients have MDR-TB. Among them, more than half has additional resistance to quinolones and injectables. Treatment outcomes of MDR-TB patients are also disappointing, particularly in those with HIV co-infection. Among them, only half are successfully treated, many lost to follow-up. So, introduction of shorter, safe, and effective new drug containing MDR-TB treatment regimens is vitally needed for the country. As you know, encouragement to use modifications of standardized shorter treatment regimen under operational research conditions was first announced by WHO in August 2018 in its rapid communication. Already in September 2018, first MDR-TB patient was included in operational research study on modified shorter treatment regimen in Belarus. By December 2019, 276 MDR-TB patients across the country were included in the study. In June 2020, 135 patients finished the treatment with 89% of treatment success. Currently, Belarus participates in a project of 11 countries of WHO European region to introduce a modified shorter treatment regimen under operational research conditions. Almost all preparatory work on the project, including approvals of local ethics committee, Ministry of Health, and scientific expertise approval, has already been done. We received just small comments from the WHO ethics committee, which we can easily fix, and I think we will get its approval very soon. Belarus also received TB Rich grant for BPAL regimen. Now this project is at the stage of signing an agreement. I expect all the regimens will be completed in few weeks and we will be able to recruit the patients. About bottlenecks. Operational research on shorter modified regimen requires additional workload of medical staff. Funding issues for this have not yet been fully resolved. And in operational research on shorter modified regimen, 39 weeks, patients should be given medication 7 days a week, including weekends. In our country, this will be possible only under video-observed conditions. Video-observed treatment for these patients also requires additional funding. Currently, about 1,400 TB patients are on VAT in Belarus. Thanks for your attention.
So, thank you very much, Alona. A very clear and an excellent overview of the situation. And I would like also to acknowledge your proactiveness, because you are always staying in touch, I mean your program. And even since the release of the rapid communication, you immediately start working on the adaptation of these new principles and reflection in your country policies. And this is actually excellent example and the right way forward. So we will continue working with you and looking at your experience. The problems are also very, very clear, and it's clear that we cannot continue business as usual. And this more active use of the digital technologies, video observed therapy, is becoming our like new routine approach. And so we should learn a lot of lessons from this situation, how to provide sustainable and effective treatment services. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Dr. Norbert Njeka, Director of the Drug-Resistant TB HIV Department of Health from South Africa. Doctor, floor is yours, please.
Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Teresa, for inviting me to speak at this important event. I would like to share a few slides, otherwise I'll speak for the rest of the day. So if I show slides, I'll probably go faster. All right. So thank you also for acknowledging us as people who worked very hard in terms of bringing new treatment regimens and really moving very, very fast. I'll just discuss with the colleagues today and share some of our lessons really that we've learned in terms of partnership. We've noticed that TB programs alone do not have enough capacity, but when you look in the country, you do have a lot of researchers, you have a lot of partners. Through such partnership, we've been able to establish a National Clinical Advisory Committee, which has helped us, for example, to produce all the guidelines that you see there, but also to help clinicians on the ground to treat patients, difficult patients. Talking to our provinces, to our districts, have strengthened our program. Simple things like going down to provinces, talking to colleagues, doing clinical audit so that we get to know exactly what is happening, leading from the front, not from the office. This is very helpful. It's something that has been very, very helpful. Of course, innovation in terms of diagnostic regimen, but again, you can't have innovation just out of nothing. When you follow WHO guidance, you can bring innovation in your program. I'm talking, for example, about the guideline from WHO on the off-label use of new drugs. This policy came out some time ago to support programmatic drug-resistant TB management. It was very helpful. We used it, and we found that actually using bedaquiline in patients, instead of kanamycin, was very, very helpful. It decreased death rate and all that. So this is very, very important. Of course, political commitment is critical. TB programs should influence politicians. Talk to them, tell them that if TB patients are cured, they go vote for them. So these are some of the things that will enhance political commitment. So colleagues, I will not really stay too much on this, but just to show where we are now, we're doing all these that I've shown you. We've been able to move our XDR code from a 45% recorded. The reality was like 50, 55. Sometimes people die, they don't report to the program. Now it comes down, and this has been verified with OMAFS. It is true reflection of the death. 60% treatment success rate for XDR from 9% is a big thing. It is going very slowly. I know some people want it to be suddenly 100%. Our target is 75%. We're getting there because this has been a progressive introduction of drugs in the program. Now, what are we planning to do? We're engaging new leadership. We've got a new minister, a new director general, a new deputy director general, although some of the posts are vacant. The TB manager's post is also vacant. We're engaging new leadership to continue to contribute data as we've always done. But we would like to believe also that when you look at the Global Fund, the Global TB report, not the Global Fund, I'm sorry, the Global TB report published last year, the global treatment success rate was below 60%. It was something like, I don't know, 56 or 59% for MDR TB. I like to believe that if we start with the BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and us, if all of us get a success rate of 60% and above, because I've checked, we are actually pulling the world down. I'm sorry to say that, but we do have a lower success rate given the fact that we have a lot of patients with a lot of resistance and a lot of, they've been on injectable for years. It has never been very good. Using oral agents will boost treatment success rate in all these high burden countries first, and also everywhere we'll be able to get a global treatment success rate that we're dreaming of if we start in, especially in high burden countries where we've got a lot of XDR like South Africa. As you can see what we've done here, this can happen even in a better version. I mean, other countries can even have quickly 80, 90% because of the HIV, co-infection. We do have 60–70% HIV co-infected, coming to 60%, we're moving to 75% is a big job. If you do have a low HIV burden, you can easily climb to 80–90% for your XDR TB. So this is what we are doing, and we are hoping to continue this collaboration. We enjoy the collaboration with the World Health Organization, and I'd like to thank you for listening to this short presentation. We shall provide more data in future. We do have plenty data on patients who are on delaminate, linezolid, and bedaquiline, a little bit more than other programs, and we shall share this data in due course. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Dr. Njeka. We are really proud of and acknowledge your leadership, and your leadership not only in the rapid uptake of the guidelines, but also your huge contribution in the development of the guidelines itself, and in your research, and also in your another example, your negotiations with the manufacturers, with the donors, which facilitated the drop in the price of the essential medicines. So hope that you will continue with your new leadership this pathway, and we'll be always working closely with you. So now we are close to the end of the session, but we have very important speaker, Dr. Sachdeva, Deputy Director General, Central TB Division from the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, India. And everybody understands that there could not be global progress without progress in India, in all high TB burden countries. And we've seen before COVID crisis really a very important step forward, and we've received this additional 800,000 people notified and put on treatment, mostly thanks to the efforts done by the India and Indonesia plus other countries. So what is happening now in India, and what are your plans on the uptake of our guidelines and implementation? Dr. Sachdeva, floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa, and colleagues at WHO, other esteemed panelists and colleagues. So, few things. First, as you all know, the notification for India in 2019 was about 2.4 billion. For the first time in the history of TB program in India, reached 2.4 million against an estimate of about 2.7 million. So we were able to close that gap between estimated and what the programs notified. That was a significant achievement. On drug-resistant TB also, between 2018 and 2019, there was about more than 50% jump in case detection. So around 67,000 drug-resistant TB cases were detected. The other big thing on drug-resistant TB is now that more than about 750 districts, they all have a dedicated what we call as wards or provision for hospitalization in case the patient needs them. The policy is not to hospitalize them or be on treatment, but if they need admission, say for initial workup, all districts have decentralized capacity to admit those patients and then do the initial follow-up. That's what. We introduced bedaquiline in the year 2016, and now around 2,000 patients are being enrolled on bedaquiline every month. So that's the current status on bedaquiline. The oral regimen, all oral regimen for MDR and XDR TB was introduced in the last quarter of 2019. Currently, all states are implementing oral regimen for the longer oral regimen, and more than 700 districts are implementing the longer oral regimen. So almost near complete coverage of the entire country, even to the most peripheral level. There are just about few districts, so almost 95% of the country to the most peripheral level has been covered with oral regimens. The guidance on shorter regimen has just been released on shorter oral regimens, and we will be soon, there's a process to be followed on introduction, which is we go to our own national technical expert group, get that approval or not from our own national technical expert group, and then roll out. So we'll soon be approaching to our own national technical expert group for shorter oral regimens. As a country, we have already approved predominant for conditional access under the national program. We just discussed today the way it can be introduced under the national program, and soon we will be introducing BPAL for extremely or extensively drug-resistant TB patients in our country. On molecular diagnostics, we introduced TrueNat lately. Of course, Gene Expert was introduced in the year 2012 to over 2013, 14, and so on. So currently there are about 3,500 molecular diagnostics. So I don't know differentiate between Gene Expert and TrueNat. They're almost 50-50 now. And the plan is to move to diagnosis of TB directly through the molecular diagnostics. And we are on the verge of placing another order for about 1,000 odd molecular diagnostics, that is a TrueNat machine. And over next 2 years, through the domestic budgetary support and with the Global Fund allocation for the next funding cycle, we'll have around 7,000 gene experts TrueNat in the country. That should help us to replace mere microscopy with the molecular diagnostics. Also, all these, there is a real-time data entry which we are using for the entire TB patients. So TB patients can be followed through their journey to the TB program on a real-time basis. You can even, anybody can see those data on a real-time basis from across the world. You can note the daily enrollments in our platform, which is called NextShare, for both drug-sensitive and drug-resistant TB patients. You can also note that differentiated whether they are notified from the public sector or the private sector. Engagement with private sector had been a huge success. Last year, we almost a third of the notification came from the private sector. So a huge success on private sector engagement. We are looking to replicate the same now in your intervention, which is scaling up our TB preventive therapy and scaling up of on all oral regimen and shorter oral regimen. So we are looking at the replicating the same. So, and also TB program has last year engaged in multi-sectoral coordination. 12 ministries are now on board with the program, and we are expanding. So to give you on HIV TB, not a huge issue in our country now with the HIV program having rolled out test and treat strategy. So more and they are putting patients, TB HIV patients early on their treatment. So the contribution of now HIV program in the form of giving patients for TB program has dwindled to less than 5%. It's only about 3% of patients have TB HIV co-infection. So that part is taken. We are well on track to so far as HIV TB is concerned, and we hope. Another important intervention is what we call as universal drug susceptibility testing, which is taken as all TB patients newly diagnosed are offered either Gene Expert or TrueNat, and we estimate about 70% of them will be able to be tested because not all of them will have samples which can be tested, extrapulmonary TB or smear negative TB, and the estimate is that about 70% of them have samples which can be tested. And last year, out of those 70%, we could reach to about 58% of them. So almost those with eligible samples, more than 85% are being tested for drug susceptibility or drug resistance, whatever you may like to call them. And that is also actually that is what is additional case detection for drug resistant TB. The treatment outcomes have also improved with the introduction of shorter regimens, bedaquiline containing regimens. From earlier about 48%, we are close to now between 65 and 70% treatment success in drug resistant TB. Hoping to improve that in near future. So that's all Teresa and the team at WHO and other panelists. I'm available for any questions or discussions there are any.
So thank you very much, Dr. Sachdeva, and for your really hard, dedicated work. And India is showing numerous positive examples to the rest of the world. And your leadership, the first one was the significant increase of the investments in TB programs. Then this implementation of the NICSHE program and significant improvement of the notification and even at sub-regional and district level. And also another example is direct cash transfer and social support to the population with TB. And we see also now the world is looking at you, how fast you will implement these new guidelines and new approaches. First of all, fully oral treatment. It will be very good example and will accelerate, your example will accelerate efforts all over the world. So we will continue working with you, and a lot of interest we can see, a lot of questions are coming. Our colleagues are trying to respond to these questions, and actually they responded quite to a lot of questions. And we are keeping attention of our audience. It's more than 400 participants. And now we have also with us our Assistant Director General, Dr. Renmin Bui. So before we will give a floor for the closing remarks to Dr. Ren, we would like probably maybe to respond, to give opportunity, as we promised, to respond to the few questions. But we also would like to reassure you that you will receive responses, if it's not possible right now, but written responses to all your questions from me and my colleagues. So thank you once again for your interest. And what are the questions we have right now?
Okay, so so very quickly we have the opportunity to take a few questions. One question that keeps coming up is, will the presentations be shared and the content be shared? We will do this on the WHO Global TB Program website, and we've provided the link both in the Q&A function and the chat. So we'll take questions 2 by 2. Depending on the time. So the first question from Shrikant Sharma, probably from India, is what if a test is conditionally recommended with a low or very low certainty of evidence for test accuracy? Is that test still good to be used for diagnosis in a countrywide TB program? Now, this is a specific question, I think, for WHO. I'll take one more question and then we'll turn to our speakers and panelists. The second question is from Dr. Grania Brigden from the Union, and she asks, given the impact of COVID-19 on the TB response, what ways can we utilize the screening for COVID-19 to increase TB detection, including drug-resistant TB? For example, in South Africa, coupling of a sputum pot and nasal pharyngeal swab for tests that then are tested on the Gene Expert platform. So I turn first to colleagues in WHO, and then we turn to our panelists.
Okay, thank you. I start with a quick answer to the question on recommendations that are conditional, because based on limited evidence. So the short answer is yes. And the recommendation is basically positive. It's suggesting the use of a test, and that test can be used, or that regimen can be used and should be used in programmatic settings. to improve the quality of evidence and to improve the strength of the recommendation, clearly we need more data. And that's the only reason why sometimes the recommendation is conditional, is not strong enough. So we invite everyone to also start projects and to collect the data, to collect evidence, so that we can really inform our policy development work.
So with regard to another question from Dr. Grania Bridgen, so we will respond, yes, we agree with you. We should look at the opportunities which are given now with the massive diagnostic of TB. Also try to test more for TB and to avoid increase of the number of missing, so-called missing people. And if you will look at our information note, which I already presented, it's available on our website, you will find our recommendation that we are in the settings where it's possible recommending to test for both, for TB and HIV, or for TB and COVID, and also because taking into consideration now that the same platforms are available for the diagnostics. And of course, there are much more questions about the specimens, the conditions, and of the sputum collection, about infection control. All these measures should be, of course, provided and be in place. And of course, we should look at these additional opportunities. You can find probably also more answers to your questions at the, I would like to refer to the WHE information notes on diagnostics in more details, and on the infection control measures which should be in place. And we can see in some of the countries that they are already using this approach, and we are collecting information and data we'll try to share and also to analyze in future and give more clear guidance and recommendations.
So I see that Dr. Norbert Jecker from South Africa would like to also respond to the question on COVID, and also Dr. Mohammed Yassin. So first, Norbert, would you like to start, and then Mohammed, we go to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I'd like to say that we've decided, we've asked our TB think tank to change our TB algorithm, TB diagnostic algorithm, to include COVID. So because it's very important that we start there, so that everyone who's tested for TB get tested for COVID, but also the teams that are going out in several provinces, the team that are going out to test for COVID have started testing for TB. So we'll package then the diagnostic materials in one pack, so that everything is in one place. Our plan is that everybody who will be initiated on treatment at our DRTB site should have a COVID test done if they didn't have any results, so that we know from the beginning who's positive, who's negative, and then those who don't have result, or those who are negative, we can then follow them up. We've equally changed the registers. We've added a column on COVID as well in our registers. Those have been printed and sent to the field. We will look at more additions as we go through, but I think it's very important. Thank you.
I just want to add information on the funding request for COVID response from countries. Some countries including, a request for testing people with symptoms or presumptive COVID for TB as well, and obviously people with preventive TB for COVID. Those requests are coming as part of the overall COVID response request to Global Fund as well. And I think it's very important that we need to use this opportunity as part of a catch-up plan as well, and test everyone who have symptoms of similarities in symptoms, and then opportunity to test for both wherever it is feasible. And that's what we see in some of the requests which are submitted to Global Fund as well. And I think countries are moving to that direction, but there is a need to optimize that process as well. And because there are differences in the requirement, the capacity, and so on. Over.
Okay, thank you very much, dear colleagues. Of course, we should take some advantages from the similarities in the diseases. Of course, there are huge differences, but still there are some opportunities, and also the platforms for diagnosis and capacity of our health workers, community health workers for doing this. So let's look from these perspectives. And also we should be prepared for future. Once again, we are looking for more evidence, for more data, and of course then there will not be delays from our side with the production of the guidance.
So Luchika would also like to respond.
Luchika, please.
Yeah, so I will just be very brief, and is linked to very much what Mohammed said. You see, the Global Fund has funding available for addressing these matters. I don't know, out of the 324 people here representing many countries, some are from non-Global Fund eligible, but from the Global Fund eligible, I don't know how many are aware of this possibility, because we need to make sure that the TB voice is available when these funding requests for COVID mitigation measures are going to the Global Fund, because there will be money there. You can ask for not only PPE, but infection control measures, all these testing capacities, and so on. And we need to be bold, because we will need very soon to make, or we will start already, catch-up plans to come back to where we were before this COVID hit us. And in the catch-up plans, we need to be very bold. And this idea or this suggestion of testing everyone for COVID and TB, I don't know if the COVID numbers are as high as the numbers that we do for TB. Remember that in a country like Bangladesh, for example, to diagnose 300,000 people a year, you will do for sure for each of them we will do 3 million tests, right? You test around 10 to get one. I think that's what we use as a figure. So COVID and TB can build on each other's on this testing, but the numbers are really high if we want to test everyone, even if you put just one gene expert for TB and one for COVID. So we need to think very smart in what we put forward, and the proposals coming to Global Fund for this money should be inclusive of people representing the TB community and TB programs and so on. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Luchika, for these very important comments. Unfortunately, we are already running out of time. And now I would like, first of all, to thank you all for your time, for your hard work, and for your participation in this webinar. And now I'm pleased to invite Dr. Ren Mingui, WHO Assistant Director General for UHC communicable and non-communicable diseases. His division, our division, is growing, but still he always have time, and he's very dedicated champion for NTB efforts, and he's here with us and to support all of you and to share his ideas and closing remarks. Please.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you to all the colleagues, and I'm pleased to be with you today for this part of the meeting discussing rapid diagnosis and drug-resistant TB treatment. Even though the most of the country still are overwhelmed with COVID-19 response, WHO is committed to continue our implementation activities related to the WHO core functions and achieving timely result, and finding ways to deliver on GPW13, in which TB remains a priority, no doubt. So I'm very happy to see so many colleagues from the world, and also our partners, including Luchika, and our colleagues from Global TB, from Global Fund to fight TB malaria, and our colleagues from country and regional office probably. So thank you very much for your engagement and contribution to this very important discussion. You know, clearly WHO has a huge function in terms of normal standard, but clearly, as you hear from Teresa, if we don't have a sort of rolling up implementation, all the global goals will be seen in nice books and without any sort of country impact to save the people's lives. That's why we need joint efforts to work together on these important issues. As we all know, tuberculosis is still #1 world infectious disease killer, providing a prime example of why we need to work with such urgency across sectors towards universal health coverage, particularly for the most poor and vulnerable populations worldwide. This is even more critical in the face of the devastating COVID-19 pandemic that has put all the gains we have made in fighting against TB and our efforts towards universal coverage at risk. I don't want to repeat the modeling example and result, but we have to do more harder to stop this further disruption of services for the TB programs and services. At the same time, we understand there are opportunities for converting this situation and for achieving, advancing the scale up of new tools for the TB towards achieving universal health coverage in the long term. This is new WHO guidance representing the significant step forward to improve the diagnosis and treatment of patients with tuberculosis and drug-resistant tuberculosis. So having updated the guidance based on the latest the evidence is only the first step to move forward. So we need to clearly follow up the actions on the ground for adoption and implementation so that all the affected people can benefit from this very important guidance from WHO with joint support and collaboration from partners. So we need to ensure that the quality of access TB diagnosis and also to shorten for oral treatment for all patients with drug-resistant TB. We count on the consolidate and coordinate all technical partners and funding agency to ensure the member states receiving the best support to implement this WHO new guidance. So with that, I thank you very much again for joining this very important discussion. And together, we absolutely can end TB with your support. Thank you again.
So thank you very much, Dr. Ren. We will continue interacting with you through these webinars. Please send us your feedback if you found it useful. We will respond to the questions which we were not able to cover right now. Colleagues, I know they responded to many questions online. You can find them. And so we're always staying in touch with you. Of course, we are living in very challenging time. Unfortunately, we can't choose the time where we are living, but we have always the choice what we can do. We can give up or can we continue our fight? In principle, we have no choice. We should continue our fight and for those millions who are still suffering and dying from TB, and this is our responsibility. And we are promised that from our side, we'll continue doing our best, working on the better policies, guidelines, and to their soonest release and provide all needed support to the partners and countries for the providing better options for our patients. Thank you very much. Please stay safe and healthy. Hope to see you very soon.
In a virtual way.
Yes, virtual, unfortunately.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a nice day.
Bye. Bye.
Have a nice day.